Championship Sunday began on a frigid day in Denver. The game stripped football down to its elemental core: wind, snow, nerve, and, well, maybe nerve alone. Drake May did not overwhelm the Broncos. He did not dazzle them either. What he did was outlast them, running them when throwing was impractical, protecting the ball when conditions begged for chaos, and delivering the one play that mattered most: a 7-yard keeper on 3rd and 5 into the snow, into history. It was kind of a performance that will never look impressive on a stat sheet and will always look inevitable. In hindsight, New England scored just once, and that was enough. Patriots defense, unyielding, patient, and cold-blooded, forced 2 turnovers, intercepted Jarrett Stidham late to seal it, and allowed just 7 points in a game that felt as tough as it was being played in another era of the sport. Though, these playoffs and 3 playoff games, New England has surrendered only 26 points. The echoes of 2000 grow louder by the week. For Denver, this will sting. It will linger. Sean Payton's second quarter decision to pass up a short field goal looms large now, as does the reality of a game played without Bo Nix, watching helplessly from a suite. The Broncos had their moment early. They did not seize it. In games like this, moments harden into outcomes. Mike Variable, in his first year as a head coach, now stands on the brink of something no one has ever done. That is, winning a Super Bowl for the same franchise where he once hoisted 3 as a player. He insists it won't be about him. History might suggest otherwise. Bring in our NFL analyst, Albert. And Albert, I just, when you look at this AFC game, it was cold, it was brutal to play, and it was also brutal to watch.
Yes, that's accurate. It was so cold that even in sunny Hawaii, which is where I am, sunny Honolulu, those on YouTube will be able to see I'm wearing a jacket right now.
Yes.
It was so cold, even talking about it made me want to put on a jacket just to discuss this. Although the temperature is quite lovely here and quite perfect, I should say. It was, without a doubt, the worst AFC Championship game I've seen in years. It was horrendous. It wasn't just the weather. You saw snow come down in the game against the Patriots and the Texans. Snow was a factor. The weather was a factor. And it's been a factor in other games that you've seen in this season. In 1967, I believe it was, the Dallas Cowboys played the Green Bay Packers in what has been termed the Ice Bowl.
Right.
With this Denver Broncos New England Patriots, I call this the Blizzard Bowl, because it essentially was a bit of a blizzard that came down. A bit of a blizzard. It was a blizzard. So the conditions changed rapidly. And it's interesting because the weather is sort of a visual metaphor for how this game kind of went. When it was, at least sunnier skies and no snow, the Denver Broncos at least were able to score a touchdown and put points on the board, right? They scored a touchdown and put points on the board. What the Denver Broncos were able to do early is they were able to go deep. And to be fair, Jarrett Stidham, although he threw that late interception, he wasn't bad in this game. So everyone's talking about how will this guy do? What will happen? Will he screw it up? You could say he did screw it up somewhat at the end with the interception. Not a good throw there. And I'll get to that in a moment. But again, it wasn't just a tale of two halves, a tale of a first and second half. It was also a tale, the weather is metaphor. The fortunes of the Broncos were sunnier in the first half as opposed to what happened in the second half when they got a lot cold. and froze up on them. And of course, the New England Patriots deal with snow and have dealt with snow in their games. So the weather was sort of a visual metaphor in this game. It was very interesting. I guess I could say that because I'm a writer and I like to conjure up such things as a writer, as a professional writer, as a former journalist. I guess if I were writing an article about this, then I would write, then I would do precisely what I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Weather as visual metaphor. But the reason why Denver lost this game was primarily because, and I've stated this with a couple of other games. I said this with Josh Allen playing against the Broncos last week. I said this with Caleb Williams playing against the Rams also last week. Quarterbacks not picking up the first down in crucial fourth quarter, late, either fourth quarter or overtime developments. Jarrett Stidham has a receiver going out. He goes past the first down marker. And then you have a New England defender who, because he's seeing this, puts himself in position to get the inevitable interception. And this is why I say the quarterbacks that have lost have done so because they're impatient in the pocket. They made bad decisions, and they're not, and repeat, not making first downs. In a situation like that, where you're down by 3 points, and the New England Patriots held on to the most slender of leads. All they needed to do was to put themselves in a position where they could at least tie the game and possibly take it to overtime. Although I don't think anybody wanted to go into overtime with the way that the winds and the snow and the sleet and all this was, and all of these things were coming down on the stadium in Denver. I don't think they wanted it overtime, but if you want to win, considering the way the score was 10-7, you either tie it up and go into overtime, or you go for a touchdown. And it was hard. I've seen video of Mike Vrabel talking to his defense and saying, if they don't score, there'll be no more. Which sounds to me like Johnny Cochran's, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Yes.
A sports version. I guess in this case it would be, if it doesn't fit for them, if it doesn't fit, they'll have to quit. So the reality is, and I said this before with New England, this defense has stepped up. This defense is far better than they were during the season, and it's going to be very interesting to see this defense in the Super Bowl. And in regards to Drake May, what Drake May was able to do was adjust. And I think the play callers, not just Vrabel, but probably Josh McDaniel as well, they had him go out of the pocket. Partly because he wasn't doing himself any favors in the pocket. They were trying to throw short, just outside the line of scrimmage. It wasn't getting anywhere because Denver's defense was bashing those players, getting them down. It was interesting. You could say the weather beat Denver. If people wanted to go that route, I don't blame them. Primarily because of what the weather did when the snowstorm, I don't know if storm is the right word for it, but I'll just say when snows came down, is it took away the deep option, or the deeper option, that Stidham had, especially on the first series. The first series, he was going deep. And I thought, well, this will be interesting. If he's already going deep, he'll expose that backfield. But they weren't able to do that as much. And, of course, weather was a huge factor. The Denver offense just didn't adjust. And what happened was that the New England offense adjusted by having Drake May basically become a runner, become a rusher. He had 65 yards, I believe, on the ground. And that way you're picking up first down. This is why I think the quarterback position in the NFL is now a complete position. For many years it wasn't, because the quarterback was stuck in the pocket like a statue, having to throw from pockets, having to throw. And now quarterbacks don't just move in the pocket. They can also run. They can also do other things. And you look at this with Drake May, he was able to run. And that's what happened. If you look at the end of this game, there are a couple of things I want to point out about Drake May. Look at the end of this game, which is interesting, and then we'll go back. But the end of this game, I've heard that it was supposed to be just to pass the ball off. He took it and he went for the first down, thus helping ensure victory. That's the way you look for other ways to pick up a first down and to get what you need. When you got a 3-point lead, at this point, your kicker didn't make a field goal, just like the kicker for the Broncos didn't make the field goal in the first half. You have to start looking at, okay, what can we do that will at least get us enough first downs? What can we do that'll get us to hold on to this lead? Because apparently we're not going to be able to score that much with the conditions the way they are. And I think the New England Patriots played to win slightly, but really secure a lead. They were holding on to it, and they held on to it, and they held on to it, and they held on to it until they won. So, again, adjustment. You get Drake May and you make him a runner, right? And the defense makes a play. What did I say on this show before? I said when it comes to playoffs, it comes down normally to 1 to 3 plays. 1 to 3. Now, going back to what I mentioned about Drake May running, you also had what happened near the end of the half, where he ran and I guess gave the Patriots almost did a Terry Bradshaw there. Gave the Patriots an opportunity to kick a field goal. And unfortunately, they did it. That's one of the worst field goal attempts I've seen this year. That was just horrendous. And it's a shame because Drake May set it up beautifully. But it was like special teams. That's another factor, special teams. But, like every team, I think every team, unless you have a really good special teams, all these teams in the NFL should be looking at special teams. Yeah, that's going to come up in the other game too. But they should be looking at special teams. I mean, that really seems to be an issue. So I would say when you look at Denver, they won because they were able to hold on to a lead barely, and they were able to adjust. And the offensive Broncos, I don't think were able to adjust. And I think if you look at why the Broncos lost specifically, again, doing my I make the call, Jarrett Stidham should have just picked up the first down. Had he gotten his receiver to go up and get to the first down marker and get the first down, they would have had a chance. Maybe to tie, maybe to go overtime. Nobody would probably want to go to overtime, but at least the possibility to tie or win. And that was taken away from him because the New England Patriots read it correctly and made the interception. So I would get the receiver near the first down marker, just outside the first down marker, pick up that first down. And that's it. But Stidham wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Other than that pass, that poor decision for that pass, I think he did a decent job in the game.
Was you look at this game and the aftermath of this is, Sean Payton not kicking the field goal on 4th down in the first half there. That would have probably been a game changer there. But how much does this loss fall on the circumstances around the Broncos versus Sean Payton's decision making?
Well, I think that's a fair question. I think that's the one question that's been brought up prior to the game. What will Jarrett Stidham do? How will he play? Etc. And I think that was less a factor. You have the quarterback you have the team you have. It was a combination of factors. You have to rate weather is a factor. And I think the conditions, the fact it became more of a defensive contest. The offenses weren't really able, and special teams too. It was hard to score in that game. It's really hard to score. And if you're hard to score, you got a slim lead, you got to hang on to it. And they just, I think with the Patriots, it was, let's not screw this up. We don't have much, but let's not screw this up. The Broncos, three points down. You're looking to create opportunities, and again, you've got to play close to the vest. You have to understand when you get to the playoffs, one play can change everything. Two can basically win a game, as could three. So, again, what I see with the Broncos is they weren't able to get a tie, which would have worked in the second half, especially for them. Because I think the way this would have been, it would have gone to overtime. I don't know what the hell this game would have been like in overtime. It was scary enough. I don't even want to see highlights of this game. That's how horrible an experience it was watching this game. I don't even want to see highlights of this. I just don't. It was just a snowy mess. And again, I think you have to. I mean, the coaching has to be different in the playoffs. It just has to be different. You have to play chess, not checkers, in the playoffs.
Final question on Denver. It, to me, looked like their last best chance was, I think, into the third quarter, maybe start of the fourth quarter. They punted the ball, and New England had it at, I want to say, the 5-yard line. And that was a 3-and-out. New England punted. Denver had it on Denver got it back at their 36-yard line and couldn't capitalize. Why?
What I said before, it's almost like magnets. Have you seen magnets? Put magnets together. What do? They stick together. You almost had two defenses in this game that kind of ruled each other out. It was very hard to score. I mean, this is, I think, a nightmare for any offensive coordinator. This game is a nightmare for any offensive coordinator because the weather is a huge factor. It's the X factor. Well, actually, it's not an X factor because it's not unknown. It's the known factor. But the weather is a huge factor, and you can't go in. Like I said, Denver was going deep prior, in the first half. And they weren't, I mean, you could try to go deep in those snowy conditions, but it's going to be a lot harder. And you open yourself up to risk of interception, which is what happened eventually in the last, over 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. The Broncos themselves, that offense started out well. They were able to get a touchdown, and I think they kind of stalled. They weren't able to get those deep passes, and they weren't able to move the ball. If they had a run game, it might have been interesting. I don't know that they would have been able to run much in the snow. Maybe they would have tried. But if they had, because they have a rookie, I think they have a rookie running back on the Denver Broncos. But if they were able to run the ball to some extent, it might have helped the Denver Broncos. But, ultimately they get stymied because they were having some success with the deep ball, and then that really wasn't an option for them later on.
Okay. Want to look at New England here just briefly. I am going to jump ahead, but I think the New England question is relevant to what we saw today. 28, 16, 10. Those are the points scored in the Patriots' 3 playoff games. How sustainable is New England's formula? Deep, elite defense, low scoring, ball control. Will that continue? as we turn the calendar to February?
That's interesting because the defense is important for New England. I don't think they would be able to get. Everybody talks about now, oh, look at their schedule. Look at how lucky they are. I said before that the Chicago Bears are the luckiest team in the NFL this year. Some people feel it's New England Patriots. If you look at some of the things that have happened in the playoffs for them, they think they're the luckiest team in the NFL. The thing about New England is this: their defense has improved dramatically, or at least significantly. And that's a big factor. I don't think they could have won had it not been for their defense. Because they are able to win these close games. I think that was what this team learned to do during the season. They won close games. They played Atlanta, for example. Atlanta played them very well, and they managed to eke out a victory. The Patriots, I think the Patriots aren't looking for a lot. They don't need Drake May to throw 400 yards.
Right.
They don't need him to do more than get maybe a couple of touchdowns. If you look at that Chargers playoff game, he got a touchdown. And because it was a defensive contest and it was low scoring, that was part of enough for them to win. For them, I think it's a matter of winning the battle of inches. It's like, okay, if this is what the game is about, how do we win in with a modicum of what we need, with a minute amount of what we need. So I think it's going to be interesting getting into the Super Bowl because, well, I'll talk about this later, but it's going to be interesting to see what kind of game the Super Bowl is going to be. Is it going to be a close defensive contest, or is it going to be enough of an offensive contest? That's, I think, going to be the question. Could be something, it could be a mix of both, but it's going to be very interesting. I think with the Patriots, it's a matter of, I think they seem to adjust to the game that they find themselves in. If the game is close, they adjust to that. If the game is a lot more points, they seem to adjust to that.
So they can shapeshift.
Somewhat, yeah. That's what I've seen during the season.
Okay. Talking with Albert Lainer, NFL analyst, host of the Wise Guys Show. Let's flip the script to the NFC. The NFC title game was loud, fast, emotional, and unmistakably modern, and at its center stood a quarterback few believed would ever reach this stage. Sam Darnold has worn many labels in his career. Sunday night, he shed them all against a relentless Rams offense and a Matthew Stafford performance for the ages. Darnold played the cleanest, calmest, and most authoritative game of his professional life. No turnovers, 3 touchdowns, complete command. Seattle's defense made the stop that mattered, the 4th and goal breakup by Devin Witherspoon, a play that will live in franchise lore. And when the moment demanded nerve, Darnold answered again, converting first downs late to bleed the clock and deny Los Angeles one final chance. The Rams did not fall quietly, however. Stafford threw for 374 yards and 3 scores. Puka Nacua was brilliant, but mistakes, most notably a muffed punt and a costly penalty, titled the razor-thin game. Seattle once again is Super Bowl bound, and remarkably, the quarterback who was once cast aside now carries them there. 2 weeks from now, the Seahawks face the Patriots. Franchises bound by shared Super Bowl history, now meeting again with unfamiliar names and unfamiliar stakes. How great is Sam Darnold?
In this game, he was absolutely great. Obviously one of his best games. And Darnold is proving the doubters wrong. He's proving the doubters wrong. It's interesting because he had a terrific season with Minnesota last year, and everything collapsed. It was amazing. The Rams seemed to have his, Achilles heel. Seemed to be able to target his Achilles heel, and he lost him. I think not just once, but twice. Once in the regular season and then in the playoffs. That team just fell apart. I think the big difference was it isn't just Sam Darnold. Everyone wants to look at Sam Darnold and say, well, he can't do it. He's incapable. He's not able. I think it's a matter of Darnold and the team. It wasn't just Sam Darnold that fell apart last year. It was the team that fell apart. They lost. If you look at the Seahawks, this team doesn't fall apart. This team is about as solid as it gets. And it's solid, it seems to be in basically all phases, all the teams within the team, right? Offense, defense, and special teams. So when you're looking at Sam Darnold, Sam is in a position where he can play to his best advantage. And so I think that's a big factor. I think so. When you look at the Seahawks, he's on a team that doesn't collapse, that doesn't fold. So it wasn't just him when he was on the Minnesota Vikings. It was also the Minnesota Vikings that fell apart. Here, he's on a team that doesn't fall apart, and he, of course, didn't fall apart. He remained solid and stable and threw an excellent game.
I've watched the Seahawks quite a bit in my lifetime. I remember the '06 run with Matt Hasselbeck and Sean Alexander, and I remember the Legion of Boom and that run when they finally did it. I was watching the game last night, and what Kenneth Walker III was able to do in that game blew me away. I mean, I thought Sean Alexander was probably maybe the Seattle's best running back. I think Kenneth Walker III might surpass him. Why haven't we been talking? Why haven't we been talking about this man?
That's a good question. I think because again, I think that this is for the most part a complete team in all phases. And so when you talk about the Seattle Seahawks, most people like to talk about Sam Darnold in the passing game. Walker had a great game against the 49ers. I think he had, over 170 yards or something like that running. And so the running game, I think, is something that's interesting. It was the same with the Rams. Although the Rams lost this game to the Seahawks, I thought the running tandem of Corum and Williams was quite good this year with the Rams. But they didn't get as much talk. I think your point about Walker is a good one. I think he's an effective running back. He had a great game against the 49ers. It didn't matter really that he didn't have a huge game in regards to yardage. He had a good opening first half. Because I don't think that the Seahawks were dependent upon the run. And I think that's a factor. They're not dependent upon the run. So if Walker doesn't have a great game, it doesn't have over 100 yards, you still got offense on the Seattle Seahawks. So they're run complementary, I think. They're not run dependent, in my view. Maybe somebody will disagree. That may be one of the reasons why you haven't heard as much about Kenneth Walker. Now, the interesting thing will be, will this guy be a factor come the Super Bowl? That's going to be very interesting. What kind of game plan will the Seahawks be using? Will the run be a big part of this game plan, or will it be a minor part of that offensive game plan? That'll be very interesting.
What does Mike McDonald get right that other young coaches still struggle with?
It's a good question. I think he's able to create an environment there, from what I've seen this year, that allows the various teams within the team and components of the team to flourish. Play calling might be a factor, but I think when I look at this team, this seems like a team that's very comfortable. It's not just they have confidence; they just seem comfortable. They seem comfortable on the field. They seem comfortable in the offensive progressions. The defense seems comfortable. I don't know what the environment is like within the locker room. I don't know what the environment is like, on the training field, on the practice field. But this just seems like a team that not just is ready to play, but they're ready to win and they're comfortable. That's the term that I think about, comfort. These guys they seem a little relaxed. They don't seem like guys that are, I don't see a lot of Sturm und Drang. I don't see a lot of stress. I don't see a lot of issues written on the faces of these Seattle Seahawks guys, unlike, say, Philadelphia Eagles or other teams. So that's what I assume. I don't know because I'm not talking with people who are, team reporters or sources there in the Seahawks, but that's what I pick up.
Okay. If you're Sean McVay, what did you tell Matthew Stafford last night, who threw for 374 yards and 3 touchdowns, but didn't win the game?
You did a great job as usual. I think that's all you can tell somebody like Stafford. Wasn't your fault. Not that he would blame himself, but, you did the best you could. And they weren't able to win because, quite frankly, let's be brutally honest. If it wasn't for that call, the taunting call, I have a feeling the Seahawks might have won a lopsided game.
Hmm.
I think that call changed the dynamic. And it was a really strange thing that player did.
Yeah.
Like, it's odd. I've seen people taunt other players or talk trash to other players, but going up a sideline and yelling at and spewing trash talk,
that's intense.
Especially when you have a referee there.
Right.
It's like very odd. But again, that has a lot to do with this is a team that doesn't go to the playoffs.
Right.
The Seahawks haven't been in the playoffs in a couple of years or so.
Right.
So when some players probably think they can get away with that sort of thing. I can say what I want to these guys and it'll not happen. But that's a 15-yard penalty.
Right.
And then Stafford throws to, I think it's Puka Nacua, and he gets a touchdown later on.
Yeah.
And you cut that 11-point lead down. So there were some couple weird things in that game. That was one of them.
Who wins another Super Bowl, Stafford or Rodgers? First.
Oh, interesting. Hard to say.
Stafford.
Stafford's in a better position.
Okay.
He's in a better position because of the way things are. Probably the Rams. It's not that the Steelers. That's it. That's if Rodgers continues. There's no indication. Fair. We don't know whether Rodgers is still.
As of this day, we do not know.
Yeah. So that's hard to say because we don't know whether Rodgers is going to play, and Stafford may be in a better position, but
Stafford turns 38 on February the 7th. Was this his last best chance to win it?
It may be probably one of his best. It certainly was one of his best years.
Okay.
It would have been great to cap it off, probably, for him to get to Super Bowl, but problem is that division's been tight. You had 3 teams in the playoffs from that West division in the NFC. That's easily the best division in the NFL. So it was tough. I think if the Rams just had to deal with the 49ers, if the Seahawks didn't have the season they had and weren't that good, Rams probably might have made it to the Super Bowl.
Okay. You want to do you make the call on this game, and then we'll go
yes.
big picture?
Absolutely.
Okay.
First and foremost, I would say it's interesting because if you look at that last play, it's not that it was a bad play. I make the call, of course. It wasn't that it was a bad play. It was a perfectly good one. The problem, however, is Puka Nacua gets the ball and he's running to the sideline. You have to understand when the Rams get the ball back, it's what? Less than 30 seconds. So every second is precious. And if you're going to get a sideline play, you just got to get your receiver out to the sideline and take the chance. The problem is he gets it. I guess he ran the route and he's headed there. He gets the ball, and the Seattle defender got him down just in the nick of time. Because had he gone out, it would have had maybe 3, possibly 2 seconds. There would have been enough time for a play. Just one play. But it was that close. It was that close. And the problem, though, is he's running to the end. He's running to the sideline. You need a defender at the sideline. So he needs to run to the sideline and then get the ball. And then if he goes out, he can get out. You got a chance to go out. And if you're going to take a chance, that's why I keep going back to plays, hip pocket plays and plays in the pocket. If you're going to run a play like that, you can't run to the sideline because it's less than 10 seconds. You just don't have the time. Now, if you had 20 seconds and you're doing that play, you would have had the time. He just didn't have it because he didn't get out of bounds.
Right.
He was in bounds, and he got up, and it's done. It's a tough way to lose a game, but you need to go. Just have the player go to the sideline. You have to take a chance, but have him go to the sideline, turn around, and then get out of bounds. Otherwise, if you're doing it either middle of the field or running to it, it's going to take up too much time. That's what happened. I mean, you look at it, that was close. It was really close. Defender got him down because the defender had the time.
So lack of field awareness cost Los Angeles the game.
Well, time of possession.
Okay.
You have to look at time and play calling. The play's fine. Like, the play is perfectly fine. So it wasn't what they did was wrong. It's just you got to, instead of running to the sideline, run to the sideline and turn around and get that ball. Take a chance on that because you don't have the seconds. I mean, again, you're running to the sideline. That's taking up time.
I want to look at the big picture here. When you step back, do these championship games signal a stylistic shift, defense and discipline winning again, or are these just situational outliers?
Well, in the AFC, it was more defense because you didn't have a lot of offense. You didn't have, in terms of points scored. In the NFC, it was offense. So everybody says that defense wins championships, but when you really think about it in the NFL, it's really offense that wins championships. Because if you don't have a quarterback that can play like Sam Darnold, over 340 yards and 3 touchdowns and zero interceptions, you're not going to win. They're just not. I mean, the Texans, by that standard, the Texans should have won because they had the top-rated defense. Nope. They had a quarterback who thought that he was one of the best quarterbacks in his rookie year. And now it's his 3rd year. How's that going for you, CJ Stroud?
Yeah.
How's that working out for you?
Yeah.
You're watching the playoffs at home.
Right.
Enough said.
Which performance was more telling long term? Drake May managing the AFC title game, or Sam Darnold seizing the NFC spotlight?
Good question. I would say probably Drake May because he's young. This is what his second year, I think. And Sam Darnold's actually been in the Super Bowl, but as a backup.
Right.
He was a backup for the 49ers.
Yep.
So this is his second Super Bowl, actually, technically, which is interesting. So that's going to be very interesting, too, from the standpoint of the Super Bowl, how Sam Darnold's going to deal with that, because he's obviously experienced that in a minor position previously. So he has Super Bowl experience.
Okay. We'll talk Super Bowl down the road on our big Friday out. I think we announced this last week. If we didn't, I'll announce it again. February the 6th. That is the opening ceremonies of the 25th Winter Olympic Games. We will, of course, have the Olympic Report hosted by yours truly. And in between, curling and figure skating and the opening ceremonies and everything else, Albert is going to join us for a little bit of Super Bowl talk. So it'll be fun to catch up with you on that Friday. And so we'll talk Super Bowl then. Want to get to some other NFL news, things happening around the league. I'll start with the big hire out in Pittsburgh. Mike McCarthy has the job. Your thoughts?
I'm not surprised. I called into a show in Pittsburgh, actually, a talk radio show. I think it was a sports show, obviously sports. And I was saying they needed an offensive coach because the pattern has been defensive coordinators. You had Chuck Noll, you've had Bill Cowher, you've had Mike Tomlin, all defensive coordinators. Cowher and Tomlin were, I think, in their 30s when they were hired. I think Noll was in his 40s, if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me on that. So I felt that they had to kind of break the pattern and go with an offensive coordinator type or an offensive coach. They also seem to broke the pattern in regards to age because McCarthy's in his 60s and he's been a head coach. And so the two patterns there. One, hiring a head coach instead of a coordinator and hiring an older coach instead of a younger coach. That makes the transition because that's essentially what the Steelers have basically done. They basically have kind of developed coordinators into head coaches. So it's been very interesting there in Pittsburgh. But they broke a pattern there, hiring pattern, and they went with Mike McCarthy, who, of course, has a Super Bowl. But he also has success. The thing you have to understand, or people have to understand is, and by people I mean those in Pittsburgh, because I hear a lot of people didn't like it in Pittsburgh. You have to understand that Pittsburgh's already done what teams are doing now. Take the coordinator, turn him into a head coach. Pittsburgh's already done that. They could continue to do that, but I got the feeling that probably the people they were interested in, probably they either couldn't get or what was left over probably wasn't as interesting to them. So they decided to go with a former Pittsburgh native in Mike McCarthy and somebody who's, again, had success with both teams. Keep in mind, Mike McCarthy got to the playoffs with the Dallas Cowboys and had winning seasons with the Dallas Cowboys. I think he had one season that wasn't winning, but he generally had winning seasons with the Dallas Cowboys. And, of course, he won a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers. And he got into the playoffs with the Green Bay Packers. So if he's able to do that in Pittsburgh, you're not losing anything. Because what the Steelers have had is continuity. I think people don't really understand that the Steelers have been a successful team for a long time. That success doesn't always turn into Super Bowls. But you're contending. That's really what you're supposed to do in the NFL. You can't really be viable as a team unless you're contending. And that's what the Steelers have done. And they like stability. I could say this as a fan of the Steelers. I'm a fan of 3 teams, but the Steelers are one of those teams. They like stability there. They like smooth sailing. They like things done a certain way there. And they don't operate the way other teams do. I'll give you an example. Cleveland, I understand, has a data-driven operation. Statistics, data, big deal there. And when they look for a head coach, this is what the reporting has come out and stated. You got to take a personality test. You got to write an essay. Yep. I'm surprised they don't have like a football version of the SAT on that team.
Yeah.
But different teams and different organizations do things a different way. Cleveland takes what I would call, I guess, the money ball approach. Really, I call it the data ball approach. And the Steelers have their way, which is basically development of coaches to the next level. That's what you're doing when you bring a coordinator on as a head coach. It's development. You're turning somebody who wasn't a head coach into a head coach. And you have to be patient with that. Yeah. But in this case, they're not doing that with McCarthy.
Okay. Meanwhile, the Buffalo Bills are still searching for their head coach. Former NFL quarterback Philip Rivers has withdrawn from the Buffalo Bills coaching search. Rivers, who has never coached a college team or an NFL team, interviewed for the Bills job on Friday in Florida, but 3 days later, the 44-year-old Rivers pulled his name from contention for the job. Who did the Bills dodge a bullet on Rivers, or did Rivers dodge a bullet with the Bills?
Well, first of all, that's a good question. Probably both.
Okay.
First of all, you have to look at the fact that the Bills now have a very bad PR publicity situation.
Yeah.
Not only because they fired McDermott,
right.
Sean McDermott, the former head coach, but also the press conference with Terry Pagula and Brandon Beane, which is, and I make no bones about saying I'm a new NFL analyst, technically. Though I had a podcast last year called Outside the NFL, which of course is still available. If you want to listen to 2024, we talk about 2024 NFL, it's on Spotify and Substack if you're interested. But I had never been an NFL analyst, so this is new to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't normally watch press conferences. But I don't know that I've ever seen a press conference with an owner or a GM or both as that is like the Hindenburg disaster. I just want to say, the humanity. That was just a publicity nightmare, and it is a publicity nightmare for the Bills. What it says to me is there are problems within this organization.
Oh, absolutely. That we didn't know about.
Yeah. And everyone, and here's important, everyone now knows it.
Yeah. Because
it's clear. Okay.
Well, when the job became available last week, I was not going to lie, I was kind of shocked. I'm going, what is going on? And then, I looked at who was available and the coaches and this and that, and I going, man, that's a desirable job. I mean, 32, there's 32 teams in the NFL. 32 coaches are lucky to have a job in the NFL, but only one job in the NFL do you have Josh Allen as your quarterback, who I think a lot of coaches would probably do some highly illegal things to get Josh Allen as their quarterback. But, so I'm just saying it's an ideal spot, but as we're digging, if they're calling Philip Rivers, they obviously, to me, looks like they don't have a plan.
Well, I'll be brutally honest. I don't know if this is going to cause controversy. Philip Rivers was and is this publicity stunt. It was a publicity stunt for the Colts. Yeah.
I agree.
I don't know who's behind this, but it's very clear. Now, Rivers can play.
Yeah.
He proved that when he went in. He could play because he's only a couple of years. I think he's, 4 or 5 years from it.
Yeah,
and of course, he's got the instinct. Of course, also, you have to keep in mind, this is in the 90s.
No.
Or the 2000s. When, and Lawrence Taylor used to say in the 90s, the NFL was war. They went after quarterbacks. You don't have the safety emphasis that you did today. They hit you as hard as they could. If you want to see an example of that in the 80s, I think was it 87 or 90? I can't remember which. It's the Giants 49ers NFC Championship.
Okay. Yeah.
Leonard Marshall hitting
that
Joe
was
Montana.
2000 maybe, but go ahead. Yeah.
That's not 2000.
Not 2000? Okay.
That was in the 80s. That's when the
okay, never mind.
The 49ers are looking to three-peat.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Got my game
on. If you look at the hit that Leonard Marshall did on Joe Montana, that would get a flag today. I'm convinced. Somehow, some referee would throw a flag for whatever reason. They make up a reason. That hit was just devastating. So it's a different league. So quarterbacks are protected. But let's be brutally honest about Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers wasn't as a publicity stunt. He was a good quarterback when he played. I don't know whose idea this was to bring him back. This isn't serious. The publicity stunt went wrong. And whoever thought about this guy coaching, that's not the way it works in the NFL. The reason why most players, ex-players who are stars, don't coach is you got to go through the cycle. You got to through the coaching cycle. You got to be position coach, coordinator, defensive or offensive, and head coach. You can't be. If you look at somebody like Peyton Manning, the way he was as a player, I used to say this guy should coach.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
He's one of the few stars that I've said that about. But you don't see him doing that.
No.
He was smart enough to say, nah, I'm not doing that. He's got his Omaha Productions, and he does stuff for ESPN, I think.
Yeah.
And right. And he does his Manning cast with his brother.
Perfect.
Smarter guys. And they're, but this was a joke. It's a publicity stunt. And when you look at what happened with the Bills, it just blew up. And when you had Phillip Rivers, it just added to that. It's like, what kind of... people were probably thinking the Bills are a joke now. Whether that's true or not, now there's a perception. This is just awful for the Bills. This is just bad news. I don't know who the head coach is going to be for the Bills or Buffalo. They got a big perception issue coming in there. Now, the one place that you would think wouldn't be a soap opera, wouldn't be a reality show, has now turned into a reality show. In 2024, it was the New York Jets. And it looks like in 2026, it might be the Buffalo Bills.
I'm going to steal your word, joke. And I think joke is a word that we could maybe use to describe what the Pro Bowl has become, in my opinion. How do we fix it? Or is it is it past fixable?
Well, the Pro Bowl is meant to be just an enjoyable kind of scrimmage game.
Yeah.
It's nothing more than a large-scale scrimmage.
Okay. NBA All-Star, but here's the thing, the NBA All-Star is enjoyable. NHL All-Star is enjoyable.
Right.
To me, this isn't enjoyable.
The problem is, I think now, I know about the Pro Bowl because the Pro Bowl used to be in Hawaii for a lot of years.
Yes, and we loved it.
I used to go to the Pro Bowl a lot.
Yeah, I loved it.
When they moved it from Hawaii,
okay,
they also decided to make it, I think...
Now it's flag football.
Isn't it before the Super Bowl?
Yes, it's before the Super Bowl. It's Tuesday. It's a Tuesday night this year. It's Tuesday night, February the 3rd.
Yeah. So I didn't think that was a good move. I think the Pro Bowl needed to be after the Super Bowl. It's just one last hurrah for people. But that's the way the NFL wants it. I don't know that there's much that can be done. I think they saw that as a way to make it more interesting and to, quote, save it. I don't think it's worked.
Okay. Do you like flag football?
Well, I haven't played flag football in a long time.
Okay.
Since I was in school.
Okay.
PE, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah.
Flag football makes its Olympic debut, 2028.
Oh,
you can see Snoop Dogg for more details on that. He's the Olympic committee chair in that event. So for Team USA, you can see for that. Okay, final question. I know you're a Raiders fan, so I'm going to ask it. Fernando Mendoza's declared for the NFL draft. All sites are leading that he's going to go to Vegas. Early thoughts?
It's fine by me, but you got to build that offensive line. Otherwise, Mendoza is going to be up. He's going to be having to pick himself off the ground because he's going to get sacked a lot. Also, it's going to be interesting to see who coaches there and what the offense is going to be under this new coach. But they got to build that offensive line. That's been one of the reasons the Raiders have failed and have been a terrible team the past couple seasons.
Okay. I've got about 90 people on X who have zero credibility. I've also seen a few posts from I'mARaidersFan.com and these clickbait sites. That there's a rumor mill or grapevine or however you want to call it that Gruden is coming back. Would you be okay with that?
I'd say the question is, will Tom Brady and Mark Davis be okay?
Third time's the charm.
I think John needs to move on.
Okay.
I think they need to move on.
Who would you like to see get the job?
Oh, Raiders?
Yeah.
Well, Harbaugh went to the Giants.
Yes. Which you called. You called that.
Harbaugh with the Raiders. But I thought the Giants were a perfect place for John Harbaugh. I thought a perfect place for him.
So who's the perfect person for Vegas?
Would do it? Probably. I'm trying to think. I'm looking at. I wouldn't mind Sean McDermott.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Sean McDermott being there.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, thank you. Always a pleasure. Wise Guy Show. Where do we find it? Where do we tune in?
You can go to @Ryder Albert Lainer 3434. That's @Ryder Albert Lainer on YouTube. And I think I'm going to do. I'm not doing playoffs per se. It's all up to the 18th week, so you've got all the weeks there. You can check them out. I think I might do a Super Bowl edition.
Okay.
So we might do a Super Bowl. I'm not quite sure when I'm going to do it, but it might be a Super Bowl, and I think that'll be the very last episode.
Okay, sounds good. What do you have in between now and the Super Bowl? Anything fun coming up?
Nothing thus far. I mean, I'm available.
Okay, he is available. Got it.
The Super Bowl is coming up. I'm available to do analysis on anyone's show.
Okay.
I mean, as a guest.
Yes.
So I'm available to guest on any show. And you could go to my YouTube, which is @Ryder Albert Lainer 3434, and you can find the contact information there.
Okay. He's Albert Lainer. We always look forward to chatting with him and look forward to doing it again on Friday, February the... I always forget that date. I want to say the 4th, but it's not the 4th. It's Friday, February the 6th. 2020.
The Super Bowl's on the 8th.
The Super Bowl is on the 8th, yes, but we will talk to you Friday.
And for all those
6th.
football fans out there, enjoy. If you don't listen to the show on the 6th, enjoy the Super Bowl on Sunday, February 8th, I believe it is. So enjoy the Super Bowl.
Yes, Super Bowl 60 live from Santa Clara, Sunday, February the 8th, streaming on NBC and Peacock. Mike Tirico's first Super Bowl. Love that for him. So congratulations to him.
Probably get some very excited and well set up chatter there from Mike Tirico.
Yeah.
As he did during the Pittsburgh Ravens game.
Hey, Mike, shout out to Mike. Mike's got a busy month ahead like all of us. He's going to call the game.
And he also has to do the Olympics.
He's got to do the Olympics. Yeah, he's gonna be calling that game and immediately take off that headset and walk right into Olympic primetime. It's going to be fun.
Wow.
It's going to be fun.
Wow. I got to have I salute Mike Tirico
Yes.
in his schedule. Wow. That's tough.
Yeah. Always look forward to talking with you, and we'll be back.